and it won the best paper at the conference. So I'd just like to show off a little with that on my final slide. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Not too bad, it must have been within time.
Yes. Yeah, so we'll have another 4 minutes for questions, Professor Hare.
Astounded them.
It was very yes.
Schumer. Well, with this, what I want to do is go back to the funders and ask them would they like to fund a digital tool, because at the moment it's just a paper-based set of questions, and what I should have said as well is the questions are difficult to cheat. They're not yes/no questions. You must give an example if you're asked in terms of the scenario, in terms of each of the indicators. So what we've developed is lists of answers that match to the model. So if you say to me something that tells me you're motivated by cash, then that goes into the model. And I think we could create an algorithm for this in a digital format, which would then allow us to develop it. Another thing I've not spoke about is that one of the other things that comes out of the model is recommendations on how to improve and how to go up the maturity level and improve. It's not on this slide, but there's a director of a company called Costain, large engineering company in the UK. One of their directors said, if you gave our guys some training on this, I think we could improve the what we call the site tours, when the senior managers walk around the construction site and they don't know what to talk about. They've been told, talk to the workers about safety, and they just look at each other. What should we talk about? He said this gives a good framework, a good structure of knowing what is meaningful in terms of the discussion. So these are other avenues for the research to go in.
Any other questions? No.
Okay.
Okay, well, thank you. Thank you very much, Billy, for your presentation. Now I would like to invite Dr. Wael Abdul Hamid from the University of Bahrain. Dr. Wael is going to actually be talking about sustainability in architectural design, a proposed framework in conceptual design. So please welcome Dr. Wael. And I would like to remind you again, 10 minutes.
On the site?
Yes, sure.
I would like to start with thanking Applied Science University, South West Bank London University, for organizing the conference and all people behind this event. Today I'm going to talk about sustainability in architectural design, a proposed framework in conceptual designing. The main topic or the main objective of my presentation is to make a framework in which inside we can apply sustainable analysis in architectural design, which can be performed and conducted by one architect or one architectural student. The introduction, I'm going to first narrow my focus of research. In the sustainability, of course, we have social and economic and ecological environment. Applying sustainability in architecture is related to material and immaterial factors. Immaterial factors such as cultural and social, which can be changed or different from one society to another. The paper would concentrate on material and tangible factors represented in environmental factors and climate response factors in architectural design. Paper's structure, I'm going to start with a certain design rule, which is design follows sustainable factors. Then after that, paper logic and rationale, literature review, proposed framework, which is divided in 3 parts, teaching content, curriculum, and designing tools. Then at the end, conclusion and further discussion. I'll start with design follows sustainable factors. We have been practiced actually different design rules since we were as students in college. We start with form follows function. Then after that, design follows conceptualization. Then different rules appeared. Lately, and let us say nowadays, sustainable factors appeared as main factor and key element in the design. So design follows sustainable factors appeared as a design rule. Why as a design rule? To conserve and save our resources, to prepare our students to the professional requirements inside the market, in which they face that they need to apply and to achieve certain, for example, U values or values according to building codes in different countries, and Bahrain is one of them. Sustainable factors on the design emergence. This is so important in a part of the first arrangement of a design problem, first arrangement of a solution of a design problem. Usually it's long lasting, and it's hardly can change. This according to literature review of design process. So if sustainable factors would appear from the beginning of the design solution, this would benefit much, or in a positive way, the design output. Then passive versus active solutions. According to literature review and different researches, passive solutions have, let us say, more effective and better in terms of economic, in terms of sustainability, better than active solutions. At least they would reduce the cost of active solutions. Then paper logic and rationale. The paper focus only on environmental factors, not all components of sustainability, and especially in climate response factors. The impact of environmental analysis on the initial design phases, we already talked about it, which is so important, and in order not to postpone the integration of environmental factors till late stages, we try to apply them and integrate them from the beginning of the design emergence or design ideas. The proposed framework attempts to solve obstacles students face to apply environmental factors, and actually this, as I mentioned, this is my main objective. Is it possible to have a sustainable design performed or conducted by one architect, not a design team of different specializations? This is main objective. Then the environmental improvement of students' design. I use students' design here as examples. So the improvement in their designs environmentally would lead or make certain indicator to test the proposed framework. Literature review, in the paper actually there are many points in terms, because of the time I'm going to just mention a couple of them. Contradiction may appear, or there is contradiction between different sustainable factors or environmental factors when they are applied inside the design. Certain difference or difference appears also between national and international standards of different countries. Then I'm going to skip the others, and I'm going to directly to proposed framework. First item of the proposed framework is teaching content, the sustainable design principles and their calculations, as well as analysis, should be integrated inside the academic courses. And I think this first item is applied in more, let us say, most architectural schools. The second or third one, which would be the new, or at least for our cases here, University of Bahrain. This is a case study of illumination analysis using Revit and Insight. As we see here in the above image. This is a plan of a building with the analysis and simulation inside. And below here, we can find the analysis of illumination in terms of window wall ratio on the left, windows and shade and glass of windows and so on. Then the second item is the curriculum, how to make a certain curriculum in order to apply this framework. So the framework, maintain that, jointly introduce computer-based analysis represented in building information modeling, BIM. Use this technique in order to apply the analysis in three different, let us say, not courses, but types of courses. First, the professional courses, which are specialized in sustainable design, maybe acoustic, illumination, all of these professional courses, they have projects, and inside the projects, BIM can be used. Currently, they have projects, but without BIM. They use different BIM, building information modeling. They use different computer programs and so on. So the framework is to combine all of these by using BIM. Then the second part, which is using advanced CAD course in order to introduce how to use BIM analysis in designing as a designing tool. Or first analysis, environmental analysis, then apply this environmental analysis as a design tool later on. At the end, try to combine all of these methods students learn in a capstone or a comprehensive design studio in order to give them certain chance and practice to apply this framework on 4 minutes. Okay. I'm trying to talk quickly. So again, this is another case study using Revit and flow design. This is, on this case study, the student use or try to reach the optimum orientation of apartment buildings inside the site. At the top here, left, you can see positioning, then wind direction, wind speed, and the bottom, the velocity or wind speed in summer left and in winter right. Then at the end, designing tools. It's not enough to know BIM analysis as environmental analysis and that's it. But the issue is to use this analysis as a design tool. A design tool, we are talking about emergence of design ideas, generating of innovative solutions. We are talking about passive solutions, not active solutions. How to do this? So first step is advanced CAD course in order to make certain simulations and calculations, of course computer-based. As we said, we are going to use BIM as a designing tool. Then second step is applying this inside a design studio, which is should be a comprehensive design studio in order to apply these different analyses, not just one case study like illumination or solar analysis or acoustic or whatever, but combine all of these analyses inside one design. This is another case study of solar analysis in building through Revit and inside 360. I'm going to skip this, then we'll go to conclusion and further discussion. The paper or the research introduced design follows sustainable factors as a design rule. Certain examples of students in which environmental factor analysis are presented and discussed. And at the end, which is the most important part, in small scale projects, one architect, or let us say an architecture student, can perform and can conduct computer-based environmental analysis without the need of a design team of different specialization. Thank you for your listening.
Thank you, Dr. Weil, for your interesting
I'm sorry because I was talking so fast.
No, sir. I'm really sorry for this.
Okay, any questions?
Any questions for Dr. Weil, guys?
Yeah, you spoke a lot about Revit. Is that the only software you'll use, or do you use any other?
For me, or for case of University of Bahrain, yes, Revit, we use Revit. But as BIM, Building Information Modeling programs, there are different. Of course, ArchiCAD can be used. Any other program can be used. I use examples here from Revit and other programs because we use it in University of Bahrain.
Any other questions, guys?
Okay.
Okay, well, I have actually one
question, of course.
One question about this one. So, I mean, you mainly used Revit for actually getting your students to carry out like an environmental analysis. But I mean, you're actually talking in the perspective of interior design. Are you actually considering, for example, thermal comfort as well on this one?
Yes.
And what about the materials and the use of other resources like water and energy and so on for that?
Maybe because of my specialization, I concentrate on architecture. Yeah. So it's not just interior, but interior and one of the case studies, by the way, it can considered as urban design. Okay. It was a site.
Yeah, that's what I saw in the images. It's mainly urban.
a couple of buildings, and the case study was to reach the best orientation of these buildings inside the site. So it can be applied architecturally, it can be applied interior design perspective, it can be applied in urban also. In terms of materials, thermal comfort and so on, thermal analysis, it is of course part of the analysis, and it is related to building materials, whether we are talking about exterior building materials and exterior walls, or interior also building materials. So it can be applied, yes.
Well, it can be applied, but how did you examine your framework?
In terms of material?
No, in terms of actually applicability, for example, of your framework.
Of course. In the framework, I introduced passive solutions which come from the design itself at the beginning, and we concentrate on that a lot, even with my students. I ask them to think first in applying sustainable improvement through passive solutions. So, or in other words, just change the design itself without the need of insulation materials, for example, and different active solutions. So for passive solutions, we had the priority, or we tried to apply it at the beginning. Then secondly, if the improvement wouldn't be achieved, or the improvement is small, it can be applied with active solutions. It means that we can use different materials, insulation materials and so on, different things.
Did you have a chance to examine your framework somewhere else, just only with your students?
With my students only.
All right. Okay. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
I'd like to invite Dr. Asim for our last.
Right. I think this is called the gray team. 1, 2, 3. Okay. What I'll do, I know it's time for lunch, and everybody is downstairs. I'll give it in 5 minutes. Right? 5 minutes. You can count on me on that, and please time me. 5 minutes.
5 minutes.
5 minutes. Okay. Where's mine? Find it first.
Oh, sorry.
Well, this research is a simple, straightforward comparison between conventional buildings and buildings built based on the Istidama rating system. You know the Pearl rating system, PRS, which is called Istidama. It's used in Abu Dhabi. Oh, thanks so much. Okay, you can start now?
Yes, you can.
Right. Green schools are known to be energy efficient, sustainable, and they are actually also expected to enhance teaching and learning for those who are using them. Now, as I said, the objective of this research is to assess the benefits of green schools and the environment, the impact of green schools on the environment. I'm not going to this. Actually, a lot of information was gathered. We did so many things: interviews, direct data gathering, data on absenteeism, data on clinic from the school clinic, and so on and so forth. Now, Istidama is established or launched in Abu Dhabi, and these are the areas that Istidama focuses on. IDP, which is the integrated development process, natural systems, livable spaces, water, energy, the main things that we know about sustainability. Of course, there are many systems in the world. The BREEAM is one of them, LEED is the other, and Green Star in Australia. In Egypt, now they are coming with the pyramid rating system. In Lebanon, they want to do the CEDAR rating system, and so on and so forth. Bahrain, what? Here you are, right? Now, problems in existing buildings, of course, with you come across problems related to the sick building syndrome. We have issues related to asthma, respiratory problems, dizziness, stress, low concentration. People coming from Africa, you find that it's too hot, and then you can't work. People think that people are lazy, they are not, but if it is too hot, you can't work. If it is too cold as well, you won't be able to work. So, and it comes from, of course, poor ventilation, inadequate temperature, humidity, high humidity, and so on and so forth. So there are problems. This is an example of the connectivity between the internal air quality, for instance, temperature, humidity, ventilation, and the consequences or the problems that they produce, like asthma and other issues related to stress and productivity and so on. Right? Why? Because if you don't have, if the IAQ is minimum, you'll have a problem. If you have smoke control is not working, problem. Ventilation is not working, problem, and so on. Right? Now, what happened is, this is an example of, this is audit report data from the schools. And if you see here, the first two schools, these two are from they are newly built, so they are based on PRS. The other schools are existing schools. The orange and red are existing. So you'll see that the CO2, for instance, in the existing ones is very high, whereas in the green buildings is low. So the emission is quite low. So you can see it's all high, 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 and so on, right? So really, it does actually make a difference when you have a green building. Now these are the information we came up with. This is the analysis, and here it shows, for instance, in the green, the way we put them here, put the green schools, two schools. The case study is based on 4 schools, 2 green, 2 conventional. Right? The green schools here, and opposite to it is the conventional. Right? IAQ, you can see this is a survey done with students and teachers in all schools, and you can see here that the perception of people that they strongly agree that the IAQ in the green school is much better than the conventional school. You can see it here, how this is 8% of students, they think they strongly agree that it's good, whereas here it's 35%. Teachers, 14% they think it's okay, 21% they think is great, right? The 49% and they agree here is 30%. So you'll see that really the opinion of people about new schools based on PRS are much, much higher and much better than schools that are existing. Thermal comfort, also here, 44% of students, they are so happy. 4% here in the existing schools are happy. So a huge difference between the two, right? And same idea with lighting. Again, 18% here, 36%, and teachers are super happy with the lighting system. 55% in the new schools, 41% in the existing one. Similar situation with acoustics, maintenance standards, effectiveness. Again, the opinion is that the new schools, based on PRS, are performing much, much better than the existing ones. Right here, this is visits to clinics. We clicked that as well. We went through all the records, checked the clinic records, and you find here that the 4.6%, right, of students in the green school have been to clinic. This is school number 1, school number 2, 17%, whereas in the existing ones, 34% of them have visited the clinic, and in the other school, 44%. A huge difference between them, right? Again, the same idea with absenteeism, much, much higher absenteeism in the existing schools. I mean, absenteeism in the new schools is just about 3%, whereas you're talking about 11% in the existing ones. So basically what this shows, now of course, in new systems, green schools are helping in improving the productivity of teachers and students and improving the comfort of users. So that's for that. And in fact, it actually tally with some of the issues mentioned by Dr. Wael as well. That actually we really need to, first of all, consider the green retrofit of projects for all schools and involve facilities managers right from the beginning, ensure collaboration between designers, educators to evaluate the needs of schools and focus on educational needs rather than budget to provide environments conducive to achieve better education. Okay, so istidama, sustainability systems are a good solution to improve the wellness and productivity of people using buildings. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
There was just on if there were any intervening factors did you have to consider, for example, were the new schools in a more wealthy area, but the old schools in a poorer region?
No. No, they are not in a wealthy area. In places, the schools are very much in the same area. But of course, the new schools, based on new material, new approach, new standards. Now we know they're going to be better anyway than the old schools, but also the PRS
Is this off?
helps in
No, it's off now.
more comfortable.
Yeah.
But no, they're not. They're the same people as well.
This lunch downstairs.
What happened? This is... Did you...
Okay, so it's a big challenge to start after lunch. So it's a big challenge for all our 4 presenters to keep people focused with you. So I think we'll start right now. It's 2 p.m. and we have 1 hour exactly, 15 minutes per paper, 10 minutes and 10 minutes presenting and 5 minutes question and answers. So welcome again after the lunch. I hope you are focused now. You don't want to sleep anymore? Okay, great. Okay, so our first presenter is Ms. Rachel Nicolatour. Rachel started as a plumbing and gas engineer 10 years ago, and now she is a trainee site manager working for the construction contractor Shaler Group, furthering her career. Please, Rachel, go ahead. You have 10 minutes to present.
Okay, is this working? There we go, perfect. So, we initially began to look at women in construction, and the motivation behind the paper was the fact that there was quite a big gap. There's not a lot of women who enter into construction, and from my own experience, I found that there wasn't a lot of ethnic minority women in construction. So I wanted to find out why. So we started doing a literature review, and the main things we found that construction industry is known as a dirty industry, not a place for women. That's the first thing we found. The next thing we looked at was the leaky pipeline, which is where women leak from different parts of the industry, education, or they change because it's just not inclusive for them. The one thing we found was that a lot of women fall into the Paula principle of psychology, so their own personal perception of their abilities to succeed in the construction industry. So the other thing we found as well was that a lot of ethnic minorities found that they couldn't fit in construction because of the colour of their skin, cultural obligations, and all sorts of other things where they just don't fit into the mould. There's not a lot of ethnic minorities I know that want to go and play golf on a Sunday. So, it was a little bit different. And especially for women, it was the fact that it's seen as culturally an obligation to have kids start a family, which we know that is a point. The other things we found is when we looked into international findings, we found that at the time of the research, India actually had more qualified women in construction than the USA. Now, bearing in mind that the USA is a land of opportunity, that was quite a surprise to see that, because India is very well known for sex abortive, that sort of scenario. Then we looked into the UAE, where there are facilities in place in order to facilitate women in construction. However, there are issues towards that as well, because they would have to ask the permission of their family, they would have to take a lower pay, and first and foremost, their families would come first above any career options. And then we looked into Australia and Hong Kong and found that there was a minority bullying. So whoever was the majority bullied the minority. And if you had ethnic minorities who were in the majority, they would bully other ethnic minorities. So the irony there was unreal. And then the other thing was language barriers, isolation, communication. It's very hard to communicate on site when everything is in English. If you do not read English, you do not understand English, that is a big problem, which creates an us and them attitude. So the other thing we found when we looked into the initiatives in the UK was that we have the Athena Swan Charter, which is designed to protect women in their roles. We also have the WISE campaign, the 30% Club, which, if you've not heard of it, is an aim in the financial industry to get 30% of women as board members. So after these literature review findings, we decided to go into an open study whereby we aimed our questionnaires at women in the hope that ethnic minority women would come forward. Out of 20 return questionnaires, only 6 were ethnic minorities. So that volume spoke in itself. And one company actually informed me that their ethnic minority women did not want to participate. They were afraid of the repercussions, which was quite an interesting